what's the biggest difference with the way parish life is back before, before you were in with the seminary, and this compared to afterwards? Because we're talking what, a couple of decades and plus.
Sure. Well, the biggest difference, we have had a tremendous number of Catholics move down to the Houston area. My first assignment in 1968, a temporary assignment, was to St. Christopher's for 3 months. Okay, there was a pastor. There were 2 other priest associates there, plus myself. Okay, there were 4 of us priests. I think we had 5 masses, so that meant we had only 1 mass on the weekend. Most of the time, one of us would have had 2. So just that alone, sometimes at St. Martha's, I would have 3 and sometimes even 4 masses on the weekend. Okay, so just the number of masses that you have, the number of people, the number of funerals and weddings in large parishes, it grows. So that's one of the things. Fewer priests, but it's not just the fewer priests. We probably have close to the same amount of priests in this archdiocese as we have had 40, 50 years ago.
But the ratio
is so different. And then the other thing is, now you might have one pastor and a parochial vicar. That's probably as much as you can hope for, even in a large parish.
Yes.
So then the staff of a parish, the parish staff is much larger now. And so one of the changes is, as pastor, you're dealing with a professional staff, someone to run liturgy, someone to run is the plant manager, is a business manager of the parish, and someone is in charge of religious education, maybe at 3 different levels: high school, middle school, elementary school. Somebody in charge of preparing young people for First Communion, First Confession, and those are huge numbers. So all of those things we didn't have before. That was the responsibility of the pastor. Usually the parish would have been smaller. You probably would have had more religious women working in the school, and they also worked in preparing the kids for First Communion, First Confession. So those would be big changes as well.
Did it feel like back then you were sort of a small business and now you're more of like a corporation? Is that what it feels like?
Sometimes like that, because you have to have, at St. Martha's, I had a staff meeting once a week. Okay. I had a team, about 8 people that we met once a week. The full staff, we would meet either once a month or every 2 weeks. Yeah, a lot of times your work as a pastor, especially in large parishes, is dealing with your staff rather than dealing with the people in ministry, because you got a lot of other people dealing with people in ministry. You're trying to make sure all those bases are covered.
Is there something that, after all these years, you look at the church and all the changes from when you were young as a seminarian, as a young priest, going through the rectory? Is there anything that you think needs to change in the church and the way that we do things?
Well, I imagine there are a number of things, but I think the main thing that I would say, we need to be creative to allow Catholics to experience their faith in a very small groups. And we can't do that with celebrating Mass because there are not enough priests. But we have to be creative in allowing people to experience their faith and share that faith with other Catholics, because that's what builds their faith, and that's what gives them the ability to share their faith and then see the need to give their lives in service to others, like the ones that serve at Martha's Kitchen, at the soup kitchen. One of those means is like ACT retreats that we can't have now during the pandemic, but it has to be more than that.
Something more intimate,
Right.
not just
And
the large mass. That's what you're
correct.
saying.
Right. And do that on a regular basis, whether it's once a month or whatever. Now, there are a lot of programs that introduce that, but to be able to maintain that as a way of life, because it's amazing when people discover their faith and the meaning of that faith and how it's meant that they discover their gifts and share their gifts with others, especially beyond their families. And in doing so, they build up the parish or they build up their community. That's where your faith comes alive. And it's as a priest, I've met so many people that have done that. Huh? You just wish there was an opportunity for more people to experience that and
Yes.
develop and grow their faith.